Welcome to her Fireside Stories, wishing you a wonderful listening experience. Imagine standing face to face with the man who abandoned you, demanding you sell the home you built alone. This Mother's Day, June wasn't just protecting a house, she was defending a lifetime of hope, heartbreak, and healing. If you'd asked me 10 years ago whether I'd ever let my ex-husband step foot in my house again, I would have laughed in your face. Yet here I am on the eve of Mother's Day, sweeping the porch of the small farmhouse I've lived in for decades, knowing he's coming by tomorrow. Not by my invitation. Of course, I'm not that nostalgic. But apparently he's got business here, and I have no choice but to face him once again. I still remember the day Oliver packed up his suitcase and walked out. We'd been married over 25 years, raising 3 kids, scraping our way through bills and arguments while I held down 2 part-time jobs to help keep the lights on. He'd been my high school sweetheart, the person I thought I'd grow old with, watch grandchildren run around our yard. But life has a way of surprising you. One day he says he can't live in this dusty old farmhouse anymore, that he wants to start fresh, chase bigger dreams, or whatever nonsense he'd convinced himself was more important than our family. When he left, the kids had mostly grown. Our youngest, Mariah, was 18, about to head off to college. Our son, Noah, had already moved out for his new job, and our eldest, Amanda, was married with a baby on the way. So it was just me in this creaky old house with the smell of Oliver's aftershave still lingering in the master bedroom and the faint echo of slammed doors from the day he walked out. I kept busy as I always did, scrubbing floors, painting the porch, holding on to the property we'd both worked so hard to maintain. The divorce was quick and painful. He didn't fight for custody. The kids were adults anyway, but he did angle for a portion of any potential profit from the house. "We're just splitting assets fairly," he'd said. "We ended up with a legal arrangement. I could stay in the house, manage it as I liked, but if I ever sold it, he'd be entitled to a slice of the proceeds." It wasn't my ideal scenario, but I didn't have the money to buy him out entirely, and he seemed happy enough to walk away with only that in writing. Over time, the bitterness in my chest became more of a dull ache. I never heard much from him except the occasional call regarding some financial detail, or a half-hearted greeting around the holidays if he happened to speak to one of the kids. Last I heard, he'd remarried a younger woman named Candace, rumored to be everything. I wasn't city-bred glamorous with an appetite for luxuries I've never bothered to dream of. So imagine my surprise when I got a curt email a month ago. Subject: House Matters message. "Hello, June. I will be coming over on Mother's Day with Candace. Need to discuss something urgent about the property. Oliver." At first, I almost deleted it, but something about the phrasing made me uneasy. Urgent about the property. Why Mother's Day of all times to show up with his new wife? My mind ran wild with possibilities. Maybe the farmland was worth something more these days. Or perhaps he found a loophole in the contract that would let him force a sale. Either way, his timing was suspicious. Mother's Day should be a time I spend with my children, not dealing with an ex-husband's demands. I told Mariah and Amanda about the email. They were livid on my behalf, wanting to step in, but I insisted on handling things myself. "It's my house," I said calmly, "and I'm not about to let him bulldoze me." Still, I couldn't help feeling anxious. For the first time in ages, I dusted the entire house, checking for squeaky hinges or leaky faucets. I wandered out to the barn behind the main building, making sure everything was in order. I had a suspicion Oliver wanted to see if the property had increased in value. If so, I might have a fight on my hands. But here's the thing. I'm not the same woman Oliver left behind all those years ago. Back then, I was fragile, heartbroken, terrified of facing life alone. Now I've learned the art of self-reliance, and I've also got a few surprises up my sleeve. One that might just turn Oliver's urgent house matter into a day he'll never forget. the sunsets casting orange and purple streaks across the sky. I lean the broom against the porch rail and sip a glass of lemonade. My heart flutters with a mix of dread and determination. Thinking about tomorrow, let him come. Let him bring that polished new wife. Let them try to scare me into anything. I've poured decades of my soul into this farmhouse, and I'll be damned if I let it go without a fight. Early the next morning, as I brew a pot of coffee, I hear a rumbling car engine approaching. My breath catches. The day has begun, and so has the showdown I've been both dreading and steeling myself for. I glance at the calendar on the fridge. Mother's Day is circled in bright red marker. Perhaps it's symbolic, or perhaps it's just cruel timing. Either way, I'm ready to meet my ex-husband head on. I watch through the living room window as Oliver steps out of a sleek silver sedan. He looks older, more lines around his eyes, a bit of gray in his hair, but he still carries himself with that same air of confidence that once made me fall for him. A second figure emerges from the passenger side, a tall, impeccably dressed woman with salon-styled hair and a huge diamond ring that sparkles in the morning sun. Candace, I presume. They walk up the porch steps as if they own the place. My pulse quickens, but I've trained myself to stay calm in a crisis. I open the door before they have a chance to knock. Oliver, I greet tersely. Candace, I presume. Welcome to my home. I emphasize my just enough to make a point. Candace flashes a dazzling smile that doesn't reach her eyes. It's so nice to finally see the place Oliver used to talk about. She glances around, her red lacquered nails tapping against the door frame. Charming. I step aside, allowing them in. Oliver's gaze sweeps across the living room, taking in the family photos on the mantel. A flicker of something, nostalgia, regret, or maybe just discomfort crosses his face. Glad to see you're keeping it in good shape, he says. Looks the same mostly. I bite back a retort. Of course it looks the same. I worked tirelessly to maintain it. So what's so urgent that it has to be done on Mother's Day? I lead them to the kitchen table where a plate of store-bought cookies sits. I debated baking something to be polite, but decided store-bought was enough courtesy for a man who left me in the lurch. Candace sets her handbag on a chair, eyeing the worn wooden floors. We don't want to take up too much of your time. She begins crossing her long legs. But we do have some pressing news. Oliver clears his throat. As you know, the farmland and this house have some potential value. I've been talking to a real estate developer in the city. They're interested in buying older properties that have enough acreage to build, well, something bigger. My stomach tightens. He's here to push me to sell. I realize I see. He slides a folder across the table. These are preliminary estimates. The developer would pay a substantial sum for the property, enough that both of us could walk away with more than we ever imagined. I open the folder, reluctantly scanning the typed figures. They're not exactly small numbers, but I set it aside. I'm not selling. This house is my home. I've put decades of work into it, and I plan to pass it on to our children. Let them decide how to keep it in the family. Candace's smile tightens. June, I understand the sentimentality, but you have to think practically. You're living all alone in a big farmhouse that's aging by the day. Why not take the money and move somewhere more convenient? Her gaze flicks to Oliver, who nods encouragingly. I inhale slowly. They have no idea I've already been planning a different future for this place, one that doesn't involve crumbling under their pressure. I appreciate your concern, I say with forced politeness, but this is my decision and I'm not budging. Oliver's lips form a thin line. That's not entirely up to you, remember. We both signed that divorce agreement. If a buyer comes knocking with an offer, I have a legal right to push for a sale, unless you can pay me out. I stiffen. Of course he'd bring up the clause. I'm well aware of that, I say. What makes you think I can't handle it? He glances at Candace before replying. No offense, June, but you're not exactly rolling in money. You work part-time at the local library, right? And sometimes you sell homemade crafts at the market. That's not going to cover a buyout. My cheeks flush with anger. It's insulting how casually he dismisses my life. You're forgetting that I've managed this property alone for years. Maybe I've got some savings you don't know about. Candace leans forward, her diamond ring flashing under the overhead light. This is a simple business proposition. If you can't afford to buy Oliver out, we'll proceed with the sale to the developer. That's our legal right. However, we'd prefer to handle this amicably, especially since it's Mother's Day. She flashes a saccharine smile. We didn't come here to bully you. I lock eyes with Oliver. You say you want an amicable resolution? Then listen carefully. I'm not opposed to giving you your share if that's what it takes, but I won't be forced into anything I don't want to do. Understood. He opens his mouth to argue, but I hold up a hand, feeling a sudden surge of confidence. I suggest we talk about this later in the afternoon. I have a Mother's Day brunch with the kids. You can stay for lunch if you like or come back after, but I'm going to see my children and I won't let you ruin my day. Oliver looks taken aback, while Candace's eyebrows shoot up. I realize I must sound more assertive than they expected. Good, let them know I'm not the same timid woman who once begged Oliver to stay. Fine, Oliver finally concedes. We'll head into town, maybe have coffee and come back around 3. He picks up the folder and stands. Just know that if you can't buy me out, I plan to push for the sale. We might as well be upfront about that. I walk them to the door. As I open it wide, a gust of spring air flows in, carrying the scent of lilacs from the side yard. Happy Mother's Day to me, I mutter under my breath. They climb into their fancy car and drive off. I watch them vanish down the gravel road, my hands shaking. He thinks I can't handle this. He thinks I'm powerless to stop him. But he's about to find out just how wrong he is. The moment Oliver's car disappears, I rush upstairs to my bedroom and close the door. Heart hammering, my house sold to a developer, bulldozed into a strip mall, or subdivided into cookie-cutter homes. I've cherished this place since my early 20s. I can't let that happen. But I also know Oliver is right about one thing, the divorce agreement. If I don't have a way to pay him his share or disprove his claim, he can force a sale. Years ago, I had no choice but to sign that contract, lacking the funds or the emotional strength to fight him in a lengthy court battle. Now, though I've built a small nest egg from decades of careful budgeting, side hustles, and a little something extra, I've kept very quiet about. I cross to the wooden trunk I inherited from my grandmother, kneel down and open it. Beneath old photo albums and crocheted blankets is a locked metal box. My hands tremble as I remove it. Inside are documents that might just be my trump card. You see, after Oliver left, I realized I needed a fallback plan if he ever tried to yank the rug out from under me again. With the help of a trusted lawyer friend, Mariah's father-in-law, I restructured the property's ownership in a way that might surprise Oliver, but it's only valid if I meet certain conditions. Conditions I've spent years preparing for. My phone buzzes, interrupting my thoughts. It's Mariah calling to confirm our Mother's Day brunch. Hey, Mom, we're at the cafe. Are you on your way? I check the clock. Time has slipped by faster than I realized. Yes, I'll be there in 10 minutes. Great, Amanda and Noah are already here. Her tone brightens. We have a surprise for you. I can't help but smile, my anxiety easing a bit at the thought of my children. If there's one thing Oliver can't take away from me, it's the bond I share with them. I lock the metal box again, shove it into the trunk, and hurry out the door. The Sunbeam Cafe in town is bustling with couples and families celebrating Mother's Day. It's a cozy place with mismatched chairs, the smell of cinnamon rolls wafting through the air. I spot my kids at a corner table waving enthusiastically. My son Noah, tall and broad-shouldered like his father, stands up to hug me first. Amanda, my eldest, grins widely, a baby carrier by her side. Her little one coos softly, too tiny to understand the occasion, but adding a sweet energy to the gathering. Mariah, my youngest, scoots over, making space for me. Happy Mother's Day, they chorus. I laugh, feeling a swell of love in my chest. Thank you, my darlings. And who is this little cutie? I gently tickle Amanda's baby under the chin, eliciting a tiny giggle. Noah hands me a wrapped box. We got you something? Just a little token to show we appreciate all you've done. Inside is a handmade mug that reads Best Mom Ever in colorful letters. I run my fingers over the design, tears pricking my eyes. I love it. Thank you, Amanda smiles. So, how's your day been so far? Doing anything special at the farmhouse? I grimace before I can stop myself. My kids notice immediately. Mom, what's wrong? Mariah asks, concern in her voice. I hesitate. Part of me wants to shield them from Oliver's nonsense, but they deserve to know the truth. Your father came by this morning with his new wife, Candace. They want to force me to sell the house or buy him out. Amanda's eyes darken. What on Mother's Day? That's so disrespectful. Noah frowns. Is that even legal? I nod wearily. He has partial rights in the divorce agreement, so yes, he can push for it. Mariah bristles. The nerve of that man. Why didn't you call us? I smile, touched by their protectiveness. I didn't want to ruin our brunch. Besides, I've been preparing for this possibility. I won't let him bully me. We talk it through and they offer to pool resources to help if needed. I'm moved, but I gently decline. This is my fight and I have a plan. I promise I'll let you know if I need help. After brunch, we take some photos, my children hugging me tightly. Even though a storm looms, my heart is buoyed by their unconditional love. As we part ways, they make me promise to call the moment anything happens. I agree, feeling fortified by their support. Back at the farmhouse, I pull the metal box from the trunk once more and examine the documents carefully. They detail a transfer scenario that might let me keep the property without paying Oliver a dime if I can prove certain conditions have been met. In simpler terms, there's an old inheritance claim from my late father, who left me a small piece of land connected to this property. Its value might offset Oliver's share if I play my cards right. Oliver and Candace are due back soon. I take a moment to steel my nerves, brew a fresh pot of coffee, and set out 2 mismatched mugs. This time, I intend to greet them not as a fearful ex-wife, but as a confident homeowner who holds a secret advantage. I can't wait to see the looks on their faces when they realize I'm no pushover. If you were in June's position, would you tell your children everything and ask for their financial help, or try to handle it alone? Share your perspective in the comments below. When Oliver and Candace return around 3 in the afternoon, I greet them on the porch with a nod rather than a smile. I suspect they were expecting me to look anxious, maybe cowering at the threat of losing my home. Instead, I stand tall, a folder tucked under my arm. Come inside, I say curtly. We might as well sit down to business. The living room feels tense as we settle on the couches. Candace crosses her legs, smoothing a designer skirt, while Oliver sets a manila folder on the coffee table with a dramatic thump. I gesture to the folder. What's that? He clears his throat. It's the official letter of intent from the developer. They're prepared to offer $500,000 for the property. That's more than fair. June, Candace pipes up. And from that sum, you'll receive your portion after Oliver's share is calculated. It's a win-win, really. I press my lips together. $500,000 is indeed a hefty offer, but it's not about the money, and you want me to sign on the dotted line just like that? Oliver shrugs. Why drag this out? The place needs work. You could find a smaller house in town. Maybe buy yourself something nice. I swallow the urge to unleash a scathing retort. Instead, I remain poised. It's not that simple. This house is more than walls and windows. It's where I raised my children, tended the garden, built a life I'm not interested in seeing it destroyed or turned into another set of condo units. Candace sighs as if I'm an unruly child refusing bedtime. Sentiment is admirable, June, But times change. People move on. I exhale, determined not to let them get under my skin. That's your perspective. Mine's different. I straighten. I have a proposal of my own. Oliver's eyebrows lift. Oh, I open my folder, sliding out a single piece of paper. It's a recorded deed connected to a small parcel of land I inherited from my father. The farmland behind this house actually extends further than the original survey indicated. My father left me that extra strip with specific instructions. I can use its assessed value in certain property disputes. That includes buyouts. In other words, Oliver, if you want half of this property's sale value, I can offset it with that inherited land's worth. They stare at me dumbfounded. Wait, Candace says, leaning forward. You mean you'd pay him in farmland instead of cash? I nod, precisely. The farmland is officially mine, completely separate from the property Oliver and I once co-owned. Its assessed value might be enough to compensate Oliver for his share here, which means I can keep the house. Oliver's face reddens. How come I never heard about this before? Because I never had to use it, I reply calmly. But now that you're pushing for a sale, I'm invoking my right to buy you out, using the farmland as collateral. He slumps back on the couch. June farmland is worthless compared to a developer's cash. Nobody wants a small strip of extra acreage in the middle of nowhere. I shrug. Maybe you can sell it or build on it or just hold on to it until it gains value. That's not my problem. This is a legitimate option written into our divorce agreement's small print. I double-checked with my lawyer. Candace's painted nails tap the armrest. This is unexpected. But is that farmland even worth as much as Oliver's share of the house? I pull out another document, a property assessment. Here, the assessor's report from 6 months ago. The land is in a region that might see some growth. It's worth a decent sum, possibly more than Oliver's share, given how farmland prices have been trending upward. Oliver's eyes scan the report, lips thinning. I can tell he's trying to hide his surprise. You planned this. I lock gazes with him. I protected myself. Yes. After you left me high and dry, I learned to be cautious. I updated the property boundaries and made sure the farmland had a clear title in my name alone. He exhales sharply. So you want me to trade my interest in this house for that farmland? You understand that if I do that, you'll never have to sell. You get full rights to the farmhouse. Exactly. That's the point. My voice doesn't waver. Take it or leave it. Oliver, but if you insist on forcing the sale, I'll fight you in court. And from what I understand, you stand to gain less if this drags on, plus court fees. Candace and Oliver exchange glances. I can practically see the gears turning in their minds, weighing the potential money from the developer's $500,000 offer against a patch of farmland that could be worthless, or could be a gold mine if farmland prices keep climbing. Finally, Oliver sets the assessment aside. Give us some time to think, I nod. You have until tomorrow evening. After that, I'll start legal proceedings to block your forced sale. It won't be pretty. I rise, gesturing toward the door. I'd like you to leave now. I have Mother's Day dinner plans with my children, and I won't have them witnessing any more of this drama. They stand. Candace's face a mask of forced composure. You're bold, I'll give you that, she remarks. I guess we'll be in touch. Oliver lingers for a moment, as if wanting to say something else, but I walk to the door, urging them out. Once the door shuts behind them, I lean against it, adrenaline coursing through my veins. I did it. I stood my ground. And I might just keep my home intact, all thanks to a little foresight and a father's quiet gift of farmland. For the rest of Mother's Day, I allow myself the luxury of focusing on happier things. My children visit in the evening, bringing a few groceries and a bouquet of sunflowers. Amanda's baby toddles around the living room, giggling at my old wooden rocking chair. We gather for a simple dinner: roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, and fresh green beans from the farmer's market. The mood is light, as though the earlier confrontation with Oliver never happened. Still, after dinner, once the kids have helped clean up, curiosity simmers in their eyes. Eventually, Noah speaks up. "So, Mom, did Dad come by again?" "What happened?" I glance at them, debating how much to reveal. Then I decide they deserve to know. "He and Candace showed up pushing for me to sell the house." I refused. I offered him farmland instead. Mariah's mouth falls open. "Farmland? Wait, you inherited something from Grandpa that none of us knew about." I give a small nod. "It's just a narrow strip, but it was deeded separately from the rest. Your grandfather suggested I hold on to it in case of an emergency. I never used it until now." Amanda frowns. "But farmland can be risky. Are you sure it's worth enough to pay Dad's share? I had it assessed recently," I explain, retrieving the document from the mantel. "It should be enough. In fact, it might be more valuable in the long run. Either way, it's within my legal rights to exchange that land for his interest in the house." Noah whistles. "That's pretty clever. Did you consult a lawyer?" I smirk. "Yes. I had a little help. I've been planning for this possibility since the divorce. I just never thought he'd come barging in on Mother's Day to try and strong-arm me." Mariah hugs me. "I'm proud of you, Mom. You're tougher than you look." Amanda nods in agreement. "Absolutely. But do you think Dad will accept farmland over cold, hard cash from the developer?" I shrug, refusing to let worry darken my mood. "Hard to say, but I'm not rolling over." They stay a bit longer, sharing slices of homemade pie for dessert. As I watch them chat, I marvel at how grown up they are, each forging their own path, yet still protective of me in their own ways. I feel a swell of gratitude that even though Oliver and I parted ways, we still managed to raise three strong and loving children. Eventually, they head home, promising to visit again soon. I'm left alone with the soft hum of the dishwasher, the night sky deepening outside, and my thoughts drifting to Oliver's reaction. Will he be furious? Resigned, greedy enough to hold out for the developer's offer? The next day, I pour my energy into yard work, trimming hedges and planting fresh flowers along the walkway. Nothing calms me like gardening, the scent of soil and the warmth of the sun on my back. By early afternoon, my phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. I don't answer it right away, assuming it might be a spam call or telemarketer. Later, as I finish tidying my tools, curiosity wins. The text reads, "June, it's Candace. We'd like to meet you at the property line you claim to own 4 p.m. today." See, so she wants to see the farmland for herself. Fine by me. I quickly text back a terse acknowledgement and head inside to clean up. The farmland in question sits beyond the orchard, past a rickety old fence that's more decorative than functional. I rarely venture that far, as it's basically a stretch of grass and a few scattered trees sloping gently down to a small creek. At 3:45, I walk out to the orchard, inhaling the sweet smell of blossoms. A breeze rustles the branches. I step over the fallen fence post that marks the property boundary, noticing fresh tire tracks in the grass. My guess is Oliver and Candace arrived early to scope things out on their own. Sure enough, I see them standing near the creek, Candace's designer heels sinking into the soft ground. She looks annoyed, brushing at her pant leg. Oliver stands with his arms folded, surveying the area. "Hello," I say, approaching. "This is it," Candace gestures around. "It's just grass and a creek, hardly prime real estate." I suppress a smile. Sometimes the land's value comes from future potential. Developers look for open spaces close to existing farmland, could be subdivided into smaller lots, or sold for water rights, or used for certain agricultural expansions. Who knows? Oliver stoops, picking up a small rock, then tossing it into the creek. "It's bigger than I expected. You sure you own it outright?" I nod. "Yes, I have the deed." I point to an old boundary marker half buried in the grass. See that it's part of the original property line from my dad's estate. Candace sighs, glancing at her mud-splattered shoes. So if we accept this, we'd be stuck with farmland. We may not even want. That's the gist, I reply. But hey, you can sell it to the developer yourself if they're interested, or hold on to it. The choice is yours. Oliver looks thoughtful. I need to run some numbers, but if your assessed value is correct, it might not be a bad deal. Candace's eyes narrow. You're sure you wouldn't rather just sign over the house? My spine stiffens. Never. This home has been my life. I won't let it go. She exhales, turning to Oliver. We'll talk it over tonight. I cross my arms. You have until tomorrow evening. After that, I'm filing a motion to block any forced sale. I'm done playing this game. Oliver stands wiping his hands on his jeans. Fair enough, June. As they head back to their car, I remain by the creek watching the sunlight dance on the water. My stomach churns with nerves, but I also feel a defiant spark in my chest. Let them see this land as worthless or burdensome. I know its value, maybe not strictly in dollars, but in the security it offers me. This farmland is my last line of defense, and I'll wield it with everything I've got. That evening, I fix myself a simple dinner: scrambled eggs and toast. Too tired to fuss with anything more elaborate, my thoughts flick between hope and dread as I consider the possible outcomes of Oliver's decision. If he takes the farmland, I'll finally have peace. If he refuses, we're headed into a legal battle that could get ugly. Just as I'm about to settle into my armchair with a cup of tea, my phone rings. It's an unknown number again, likely. Candace resigned. I pick up. Hello, June. It's Oliver. His voice sounds subdued. I've been crunching numbers all day, and my heart thuds. A pause. It looks like, according to your assessment, the land is roughly equivalent to what I'd get if we sold the house at the developer's price. Give or take some. Candace and I are considering it. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. That's good to hear. He clears his throat, but we'd need an official survey to confirm it's worth that much. That means a new appraisal, which could take a while, and it's not guaranteed to match your assessment. If it's lower, I might push for a partial sale of the house anyway. I grit my teeth. Fine, I'm not opposed to a survey, but if the farmland is indeed valuable enough, you'll sign away all your interests in the house. He hesitates. Yes, if the numbers line up. Emotion wells up in me, part relief, part frustration that he still can't fully trust my data. But I keep my voice steady. When do you want to do this survey? Tomorrow morning, if you can arrange it. I know a guy who can come out. It'll cost a few hundred, but I'll pay. I nod. I'll be here. Just let me know when. After we hang up, I cradle the phone, feeling a swirl of hope and anxiety. This could be it. My chance to ensure the house remains mine forever. I imagine a future free from Oliver's threats, the walls of this farmhouse safe and mine to pass on to the kids. A small smile creeps onto my face, thinking about how sweet that victory would taste. Early the next morning, a black SUV rumbles down my driveway. Oliver steps out, followed by a man with a clipboard and a laser surveying instrument. I walk over, exchanging curt greetings. Candace is notably absent. Candace wanted to sleep in. Oliver explains, shrugging. She said to text her if we find any earth-shattering news. I can't help but roll my eyes. All right, let's get this done. The surveyor, Mr. Santos, introduces himself politely, then sets to work. We spend the next 2 hours walking the perimeter of the farmland, marking boundary posts, measuring distances, and referencing old deeds. Mr. Santos occasionally mutters technical jargon about topography and projected land value, while I quietly pray the final results align with my earlier assessment. Oliver appears restless sometimes, kicking at clumps of grass or fiddling with his phone. I catch him eyeing me a few times, perhaps, with lingering curiosity or regret. Part of me feels an odd nostalgia. We once roamed these fields together, young and full of plans. Now it's all business. Finally, Mr. Santos wraps up promising to email a preliminary report by the evening. We traipse back to the farmhouse where I pour 2 glasses of water, handing one to Oliver. It strikes me how domestic this scene is, me offering him a drink in our old kitchen, but the atmosphere is decidedly chilly. He sets the glass down. Thanks. I lean against the counter. So, if the survey shows the land is worth what we expect, you'll take it? He nods slowly. That's the plan? Candace is more skeptical, but I think we can come to an arrangement. The developer might want farmland, or we could hold on to it as an investment. His gaze shifts to the worn wooden floor. June, it's strange to see you like this. So determined back then when I left you seemed so broken. A flicker of old pain surfaces. You tore our family apart. He sighs, pressing his lips into a thin line. It wasn't working for me anymore. I know that's no excuse for how I handled it. But I see now. You're doing well on your own. I swallow the bitterness in my throat. I learned to survive. A silence stretches between us, thick with unspoken apologies and regrets. Then Oliver pulls his phone from his pocket, reading an incoming text. I have to go. Candace wants me to pick up lunch. He heads toward the door, then turns back briefly. You know, if the farmland checks out, we'll finally be done with this. You'll never have to see me again. I force a nod. That's the idea? He leaves and I stand by the counter, body humming with unresolved emotions. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzes, a text from Noah asking if everything's okay. Instead of detailing all this drama, I just reply that I'm fine waiting on results. My kids have their own lives and I don't want them worrying too much. Hours crawl by, tension building with every tick of the clock. As dusk settles, my email finally pings. Mr. Santos's name flashes on the screen. I open the attachment, my heart pounding. His report confirms that the farmland's current assessed value is indeed in line with my earlier documents. It's enough to match Oliver's potential share in the house, maybe even a bit more. A surge of euphoria washes over me. I could actually keep my home. I quickly forward the report to Oliver, typing a short message. Here's the final assessment. Please let me know your decision by tomorrow. I hit send, then step outside to watch the stars emerge, feeling as if a weight has lifted off my shoulders. A crisp breeze rustles the nearby trees. This could be the last night I spend under the shadow of Oliver's threats. Tomorrow might bring closure at long last. Dawn breaks with a sense of anticipation. I hardly sleep, torn between excitement and worry. But as the sun's rays spill through the curtains, I feel a surge of confidence. The survey results are solid. The farmland is legitimately valuable. Unless Oliver wants a drawn-out court battle, the smartest choice is to finalize the trade. By mid-morning, I still haven't heard from him. I kill time, reorganizing my kitchen cabinets, sorting through decades of mismatched mugs. My nerves jangle every time my phone buzzes with a text or notification, but none are from Oliver. Finally, around noon, my doorbell rings. Through the window, I see Candace's sleek figure standing on the porch, a stack of papers in hand. I brace myself and open the door. She steps inside without being invited, scanning the living room as if assessing it for an auction. Good afternoon, she says, her voice clipped. Hello, I reply, tamping down my annoyance. Where's Oliver? She sets the papers on my coffee table. He's at the developer's office, or at least on a call with them. We have a counter-proposal. My stomach drops. A counter-proposal. Candace nods, crossing her arms. The farmland's fair value is close to what Oliver would get from a sale. Yes, but the developer is willing to sweeten the pot. They're offering a slightly higher price if Oliver convinces you to sign off on certain zoning permissions that affect not just this farmhouse, but the farmland too. I stare at her zoning permissions for the farmland I inherited. That's mine. They can't just build on it without my consent. She smirks. Hence the bigger payoff. If we all sign, the developer can turn both the farmhouse property and the farmland into a cohesive development. Everyone profits. My chest tightens, but that means bulldozing this home right, or at the very least tearing up the orchard, leveling the creek area. Candace shrugs. Yes, presumably, but you'd walk away with a lot more than 500,000. We're talking close to 700,000 now, maybe more depending on negotiations. That's a significant windfall. I feel faint anger flaring. You're basically telling me to help them destroy everything I love for a bigger check. Her nails tap the table. It's business, June. If you want to keep the orchard or the house, you can't also cash in on the farmland. Not in the developer's plan. If you sign, we all get a hefty payout. If not, Oliver might still force a sale, just for the farmhouse portion, and you end up with far less than what's on the table now. My mind spins. I glance at the papers scanning the jargon. The developer wants me to surrender both the farmhouse and farmland, or at minimum allow them to rezone it for future use, guaranteeing they can eventually force me off. It's a downright bribe disguised as a business deal. Candace steps closer, her tone softening like a predator feigning kindness. Think about it. This is your chance to finally walk away. With real security, no more old roof repairs or squeaky floors. No more living paycheck to paycheck. I inhale sharply, remembering the sense of peace this home has given me, how the orchard blossoms in spring, the memories woven into every creaky floorboard. I don't live paycheck to paycheck. I counter, I manage fine, and money won't replace the history here. She snorts. History doesn't pay for your retirement. June, a wave of anger surges. I'm not signing. I don't care if it's $1,000,000. I won't stand by and see my home destroyed. Candace's lips press into a thin line. That's unfortunate. Oliver thought you might feel that way. He's prepared to take legal action to force the sale again unless you concede. You can't do that if I give him the farmland. I snap. She smirks. He's rethinking that arrangement. You see, the developer told Oliver they'd pay him more if the farmland is included, much more than your original survey indicated. So, if you don't sign the new deal, he's determined to force the sale on everything farmland included. My heart pounds. He has no rights to my father's land. It's mine alone. Candace lifts a piece of paper from her folder. According to the developer's lawyers, if the farmland is deemed essential to the property's new plan, they can argue certain easement rights and combined zoning. Stop! I bark, snatching the paper from her hand. My eyes skim legalese that claims the farmland's potential usage might be tied to the original property if certain utility lines cross boundaries. This is insane, some archaic loophole. Perhaps I realize Oliver must be truly desperate for a bigger payout, willing to drag me through courts yet again. My stomach churns. Do I have the energy, the funds to fight these manipulations? Candace arches an eyebrow. Now you see the bigger picture. Oliver isn't satisfied with a mere equal share. He wants this developer money, and they won't proceed unless they get your farmland too. This is your last chance to walk away richer than you ever imagined, or face a prolonged legal battle that you might not win. A swirl of fury and despair knots in my chest. Get out, I whisper, my voice trembling. I need time. She sniffs, gathering her folder. We'll give you until tomorrow morning. After that, Oliver will sign with the developer, and you can expect a court summons soon. She walks out, leaving me quaking. I sink onto the couch, my mind racing with the cruelty of it all. They want to throw everything at me, legal loopholes, zoning manipulations, to force me into giving up. If I fight, it could mean months or years in court, draining my savings. And there's no absolute guarantee I'll prevail. I bury my face in my hands, tears burning. For so long, I've prided myself on independence, on not letting Oliver break me. But I never expected him to stoop this low. Doubt creeps in. Maybe I should take the money, give up the farmhouse, buy a cozy little place in town. Isn't that the practical route? But then I think of the orchard, the sunlight dancing on the creek, the memories of my children growing up here. A fierce protectiveness roars inside me. I refuse to let Oliver's greed obliterate my legacy. One last chance, Candace said. Fine, I'll take that last chance and fight. Let them see just how fierce a mother can be when defending her home. All night I wrestle with my options. Each scenario leads to a maze of court filings, depositions, and possible heartbreak. Around 3 a.m., I give up on sleep and wander downstairs, flipping through old photo albums that chronicle the evolution of this farmhouse, from newlyweds painting the porch rail, a cheerful sky blue, to kids chasing the dog in the orchard. I pause on a photo of my father standing proudly in front of a tractor farmland stretching behind him. He loved this land deeply, believed in preserving the rural character of our corner of the world. Selling it to some soulless developer would be the ultimate betrayal of his memory. At dawn, I brew extra strong coffee and sit at the kitchen table determined to strategize. Candace threatened me with a deadline of tomorrow morning, which means today is do or die. My mind flickers to lawyers, but I can't afford a long legal war. I need a different angle, something that forces Oliver's hand before he can force mine. The chirping of my phone breaks my concentration. It's Mariah I pick up, trying to keep my voice steady. Morning, sweetie, Mom. Amanda told me what Dad's up to. Are you okay? My composure cracks. I explained the new developer plan, the bigger payout, the potential legal entanglements. There's a pause on the line. Then Mariah says firmly, "This is ridiculous. You shouldn't face this alone. Let us help. I appreciate the sentiment, but I don't want you kids dragged into a legal fight." Mariah lowers her voice. "Listen, Noah has some connections in the city planning office. He might know if there's a way to block the developer's rezoning. Let us talk to him. Maybe we can gather support from neighbors or find a reason the orchard can't be demolished, like a historical preservation angle or something." My heart lifts. "You think that's possible? It's worth a shot. I'll call you back soon." She hangs up, leaving me feeling a spark of hope. True to her word, Mariah calls back within an hour, sounding breathless. Noah talked to a friend in the city planning department. There's a movement to preserve agricultural heritage sites, especially if the orchard is over a certain age or if a local historical figure is connected to it. My mind races. A local historical figure. My father wasn't exactly famous, but he was a decorated war veteran and a respected farmer in the community. Does that count? Maybe Mariah says. We need evidence that this orchard has cultural or historical significance. If we can prove it qualifies for heritage preservation, the developer's rezoning request could be blocked, or at least delayed indefinitely. Relief and excitement flood me. That would be incredible. Where do we start? We gather documents, records of your father's service articles about his contribution to the community. We talk to the local historical society. They might help file a motion for heritage status, which could put a freeze on any development. Then Dad and Candace can't do anything without a lengthy review. That might be enough to make the developer back off. A shaky laugh escapes me. Mariah, that's brilliant. I'll start looking through Dad's old papers right now. We hang up and I spring into action, rummaging through the trunk containing my father's letters, medals, and newspaper clippings. He'd been featured in a local article decades ago, praising his post-war efforts to rebuild farmland and boost the local economy. Another piece highlighted how he donated portions of his crops to feed underprivileged families. This orchard might indeed be recognized as a historically significant agricultural site, especially if I can find enough proof of its community impact. By mid-morning, I have a small stack of documents ready. Amanda and Mariah arrive in a flurry, baby in tow, eager to help me piece everything together. We set up a makeshift research station on my dining room table, scanning old photos, printing out relevant sections of our local historical society's website. I begin drafting a letter to the city planning board, outlining my father's legacy and requesting urgent consideration for heritage preservation. Meanwhile, Amanda bounces her baby on her hip, scanning documents for any mention of orchard significance. Mariah navigates the county website, searching for preservation guidelines. Time slips by as we work. I glance at the clock, nearly noon. Oliver and Candace might show up any minute, expecting me to cave to their demands. They'll be in for a surprise if I can pull this off. Sure enough, at 12:30, a car rumbles in the driveway. I hear voices outside Oliver's low rumble and Candace's sharper tone. My pulse quickens. The kids exchange determined nods with me. We're ready to stand, united. Oliver knocks firmly. I open the door to see both him and Candace, dressed like they just left a corporate board meeting. June, Oliver says we came for your answer. Before I can speak, Mariah steps forward. You're not getting the orchard. Dad, Candace's eyes narrow. Excuse me. Amanda hands me a file and I pass it to Oliver. We're filing for historical preservation status on the orchard and farmland. If this goes through, any commercial development will be suspended. Oliver flips through the papers, confusion on his face. Historical orchard. This orchard is just a bunch of old trees. I lift my chin. Old, yes. But they're part of a legacy that dates back to my father's post-war efforts recognized by the community. We have articles, official letters, even a war medal story that ties into how he rebuilt farmland. It's all in there. If the orchard is deemed historically significant, you can't bulldoze it or rezone it for housing. Candace snatches the file, scanning the pages. This is nonsense. The developer has lawyers who'll tear this apart. I square my shoulders. Maybe, but at the very least, it'll force a lengthy review. Developers hate delays. They might walk away rather than sink time and money into uncertain litigation. So you and Oliver stand to lose your big payout. Oliver's jaw works silently, realization dawning. I can almost see the gears shifting. Either accept the farmland swap or risk being tangled in indefinite bureaucracy. My kids watch him with fierce stares. An unspoken message that we're all in this together? I cross my arms. So, which will it be? Oliver, take the farmland and leave me my home, or try your luck with a developer who might bail once we invoke historical preservation. For a long moment, silence stretches in the entryway. Candace's face flushes with anger, her manicured nails tapping against the folder. Oliver's expression wavers between frustration and grudging admiration. I stand with my children at my side, baby cooing softly in Amanda's arms. Finally, Oliver sets the file on the hallway table. All right, he mutters, you win. My legs nearly give out in relief, meaning Candace tries to interject, but Oliver holds up a hand, meaning we'll take the farmland in exchange for my share of the house. We won't push the developer plan anymore. This orchard, it's obviously important to you and the kids. I exhale slowly, hardly daring to believe it. You'll sign a legal release. Yes, he says, shrugging his shoulders. I'll have my lawyer draft the paperwork. Once everything's official, I'll transfer my interest in the house to you and you transfer that farmland to me or the developer, whoever I decide to sell to. Candace's lips flatten, but she doesn't protest. Probably realize there's more money to be made reselling farmland without the headache of a drawn-out fight over orchard preservation. Maybe she's even thinking about how to flip it quickly. I don't care, as long as they leave my orchard and farmhouse alone. You'll have no further claim on this home, I clarify. Voice firm, no attempts to rezone or demand partial profits later. He nods, I promise. We'll finalize it so you're free and clear. I nod curtly, then we have a deal. A heavy tension dissipates like morning fog. Candace glances around the living room one last time before turning to the door. Fine, we'll get you the paperwork in a few days. Oliver lingers, eyeing me with an unreadable expression. Guess that's it then. Congratulations, June. You always were the stubborn one. He gives a rueful half smile. I allow myself a small grin, stubborn enough to protect what matters. With that, they leave the door clicking shut behind them. I feel my knees wobble, adrenaline draining away. Amanda sets a hand on my shoulder. You did it, Mom. Mariah bounces on her toes. That was incredible. Noah picks up the file from the table. I can't believe Dad folded so quickly. I collapse onto the couch, tears of relief burning my eyes. It's over, I whisper, hardly believing the words. He can't take this house from me. We share a family hug, baby giggling, the kids beaming with pride. After a few minutes, Noah says, we should celebrate. Let's get some pizza or something. I laugh, wiping my cheeks. Pizza sounds perfect. Within half an hour, my living room is filled with the aroma of melted cheese and tomato sauce. We gather around perched on couches and chairs, rehashing the standoff that just ended. The orchard, the farmland, the historical preservation angle. It all worked. Between bites of pizza, Amanda asks quietly, do you think Dad regrets leaving now that he sees how strong you are? I swallow. The question catches me off guard. I don't know. It's been years since he left. I won't deny I felt broken when it happened. But look at us now. I have you three, this home, and a life I'm proud of. Noah nudges my arm, offering me a slice with extra pepperoni. I'd say we have a lot to be thankful for. Later, when the kids head home, I wander out to the orchard on my own. The sun hangs low, casting warm light over the blossoming trees. I spot the old wooden swing I made for the grandkids, swaying gently in the breeze. My father's orchard saved from the bulldozer. My father's farmland used to secure the house's future. It all comes full circle. My phone buzzes a text from Oliver. We'll draw up the documents this week. I'll be in touch. Good luck with everything. Short, civil, and final, I breathe out, feeling a strange sense of closure. There was a time I yearned for an apology or some grand explanation, but now I realize I don't need it. This battle taught me that my worth isn't tied to Oliver's choices. I'm strong enough to defend what's mine and to build the life I want with or without his approval. As dusk deepens, I rest against an old apple tree, the bark rough against my back, and watch fireflies spark in the twilight. I recall the younger version of me standing in these very orchards, wondering if I was enough, if I could handle single motherhood and an aging farmhouse. The answer, as it turns out, is yes, more than enough. Tomorrow, I'll contact my own lawyer to confirm the farmland transfer and finalize the house's sole ownership in my name. Soon it'll be official. This place is mine to keep, to maintain, to pass down. Maybe in a few years, we'll even fix up the barn for gatherings or convert it into a small event space for local weddings. The possibilities feel endless now that I'm free from Oliver's looming claims. In the distance, a whippoorwill calls its haunting melody. Carrying through the orchard, I smile, hugging my arms around myself as the night air cools. Mother's Day started with an unwelcome threat, but it ends with a sense of triumph, fitting in a way, a reminder that mothers are often the keepers of home, guardians of tradition, and fierce protectors of what they hold dear. I close my eyes, listening to the symphony of crickets and the soft rustling of leaves, letting gratitude fill my chest. This farmhouse is my haven. My orchard is my legacy. And no matter how big an offer or how fancy a developer's plan might be, I've proven that some things in life are simply priceless. Would you have considered taking the large payout instead of fighting for your home? Or do you believe some memories and places are worth more than money? Share your thoughts below. Thank you so much for joining me here at her Fireside Stories today. June's courageous stand against her ex-husband's greed truly illustrates the powerful bond we share with the places and memories we cherish. It makes me wonder, what would you have done in June's shoes? Would you have fought tooth and nail for your home and its memories, or considered the financial freedom offered by a big payout? I'd love to hear your thoughts. so please leave your comments below and don't forget to tell me where you're tuning in from. If you enjoyed this story, it would mean so much if you subscribed to our channel, liked the video, and shared it with your friends and family. Your support allows me to keep bringing you these inspiring, heartfelt tales every week. Until we meet again by the fireside, keep your loved ones close and your courage closer. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you again soon, here at Her Fireside Stories.